having a great tournament, but the MVP from Thailand, he's got the potential as well to turn things around. Kind of did on that second night for MSC Theraton as well. We kind of started to see him come out of his shell. A lot of it thanks to Rossiter Jr. And fortunately, we can kind of stop talking and get into this game. Bloody casters, goddammit. We're in. Game 1, Jordan, day 3, PCS1 APAC. Let's go.
Yeah, this is absolutely what we want to dive into. Enough of the pod. Jump into Miramar and you can see the points per map there as well on the right-hand side of your screen. And this is something that we're always going to be really interested in talking about, Xenox, because now we shift over to the Miramar week. It's predominantly going to be Miramar. 60% of the games are going to be on this map. And the teams that are going to be cheering about that are Bahamut Gaming. Well, it's really just Bahamut Gaming, quite frankly. Fury arguably have performed a little bit better on Miramar, same for Divine, but their point split isn't quite as significant. But Bahamut Gaming have gotten 80% of their kill points and 100% of their placement points on this map. So they're definitely going to be eager to see how things go. And what's really interesting about them as well, Xenox, is that they are kind of within the discussion, right? They're in 12th place, so they're not doing terribly. And they're able to potentially push themselves up into a pretty decent placement, maybe within the top 8, off of the back of this week.
The thing as well is, we probably didn't really speak about it much at lengths in the pre-show, but this is, of course, the Miramar week as well, so there are going to be 2 extra games of Miramar played this week compared to Erangel. Of course, over in week 1, we had the Erangel games that were, a little bit extra, just 2 extra games. It's not a lot, but we have seen a noticeable difference. You mentioned, certain teams are performing better on the likes of Miramar. Bahamut Gaming, without a shred of doubt, has been performing a lot better on Miramar. So they are, as you say, an interesting candidate to look at here for this week in particular as we have more Miramar games. The damage numbers, though, no surprise, Jordan. Jarman leading the way for Q Confirm and leading the way in general, I believe. Buriram, Cerberus, and then Juxi and Fury. Fury, the fact that they're in 4th position for damage suggests they're doing pretty well in fights. They've just got to now see if they can confirm those kills, get those extra points.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, isn't it? I mean, I guess there is something to be said for taking utility away from your opponents, taking meds and heals and that kind of thing away from them. But you do also need to be confirming those points as well. Actually, interesting thing to touch on here, Xenox, and this is the champion projection. Of course, it's going to have Q Confirm quite handily at the top. 71% chance, and to be honest, I probably agree with that. I think that there's a very high likelihood we will see Q Confirm at the end of this competition, finishing in 1st place. 176 expected points, and that's sort of in line with what I was talking about earlier on during that pre-show, Xenox, where it's almost unbelievable to imagine that they're going to be able to keep up this 11.7 points per game kind of a performance over the course of the next 2 days as well. So this has got them sitting at a little bit lower than that, about 8 points, 9 points a game at the end of the competition, but still well ahead of the rest of the competition, regardless of if they were to drop off here in the second week.
Of course, one of the most voted teams for the Pick'em Challenges, Q Confirmed. I'm sure there's a lot happy to see that statistic, 71% chance. Could even, quite honestly, be higher, maybe only 1 game more, and that could be the case. I think the thing I love about that statistics is it does take past performances into the result as well, into the calculations. So Buriram technically had the 2nd highest chance, even though they're sitting in 4th right now, behind Golden Cat, behind Cerberus Esports. So I do like the dynamics there, that it's not all just about how these 10 games that have played so far. It will look at things like Charity Showdown as well as a reference point. And, Buriram United is a team that has been performing very, very well. Not just here in PCS1, but, Charity Showdown and all the regional tournaments as well. So that's kind of giving me more of an indication that those statistics are correct.
Yeah, it's interesting to sort of theorize. I'm a big fan of theory crafting and that kind of thing. At the end of the day, though, you do have to look at that kind of a list and say this is not 100% accurate representation of what we're going to get. It is just an expectation. It's a prediction more so than anything else, and it gives you some fun talking points, but you really can't take it as gospel or anything like that, and you can't necessarily use it as analysis per se. It really has to come down to what the teams are doing in the game as opposed to what the data on the spreadsheets say. And I think it's interesting that while we're talking about that, we are watching Fury, because Fury is a team that they had a really good day 1, Xenox, and they fell off a little bit on day 2. They could have really been at about 60 points, just a bit above 60 points, and they would have been around Maogi's position had they kept up that pace from day 1. So looking at these kinds of teams and looking at those kinds of graphics, it's pretty obvious that the potential is there. It's just not necessarily being realized. And I think that's the key takeaway for me, is for a lot of the teams that we're seeing in this competition. I don't know how he's managed to land that, but he's okay.
I may just went through a
bit of
tree.
attention, right?
Make
But-
the historic
but
comeback.
you get what
Jordan,
I'm saying.
that one night. Fury is a team that's certainly capable.
Yeah, no, I 100%
of getting
get what you're saying, but
multiple
also
wins
that
on a
when
night.
you
We've
say
seen it
that,
time and time
you
again.
know, you look at
and
a team
they
like Fury Australia.
literally
and I
just
also
saw it
look
2
at
minutes
them
ago.
and say, well,
The
there's
damage
no
numbers,
reason
they
they
are
don't come
competing
out tonight.
Yeah.
as if
and
they're
they
like
pick up
right
wins,
behind.
they pick up a
Q
high
confirmed. It's just
scale
the-
amount
the
of points,
stats, the
and
numbers
potentially
aren't
by
backing
the
it
end
up.
of the night, like
Well, it means they're putting a lot of damage down, but they're
I
not
think for
necessarily
everyone
being able to convert it
outside of
into full
Brewer
points
and Golden
and
Cat
placement
Cerberus,
points.
if
Yes,
you
it's a
want
benefit,
to
but it's not
make
always going to be
historic comeback
getting the
towards
points
that
on the board.
one
This
last
might
ditch
be a
effort.
good
Tonight's
start
going
for
to be
Golden
that
Cat.
night. Fury's a team
Maximus
that's certainly
has
capable
spotted out
of
an
getting
opponent.
multiple wins on a night.
Dropped Tanoi, helping out there as well. So Cerberus, not the way that they want to be starting today. They're-
Competing
Yeah.
as if they're like right behind Q confirmed. It's just the stats, the numbers aren't backing it up.
Well, it means they're putting a lot of damage down, but they're not necessarily being able to convert it into kill points and placement points. So, yes, it's a benefit, but it's not always going to be getting the points on the board. This might be a good start for Golden Cat as Maximus has spotted out an opponent. Ghoul will drop Tanoi, helping out there as well. So Cerberus, not the way that they want to be starting today. They're in second place, Xenox. They really need to have a good day here. Deep in the conversation in chasing you confirm, and it's already gone horribly wrong.
Fortunately, though, if you are sitting in second place like Cerberus is, you can afford to have a few slip-ups. At the end of the day, first isn't always everything. Not only that, but for them, of course, the margin from Q Confirm, not as large. Long way to go, of course. We've seen crazy things. Sometimes a 3-man lineup is still more than enough to get the job done. I will notice as well, Jordan, that Smell is in for Haisaki today. I've seen maybe some of the reasons why. I don't really want to bring it up on the broadcast in case I'm wrong, because I would hate to report wrong information, but I will point out Smell in for Haisaki today, who really has been maybe one, if not the best player for Cerberus so far.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I'm pretty sure just going back and looking at that graphic that Haisaki was the highest damage dealer for Cerberus. In fact, yeah, I'm taking a look back and he's got 36% of their damage. Now, it's like, when you consider that it should be sitting around 25% for all of the players if you're putting in the amount of damage that, you know, should be expected of you. 4 players, you should be hitting a quarter of the damage per person of your team. He's overperforming, right, in terms of the damage output. So to lose him is potentially a bit of a scary
구공훈유령님
prospect.
세 번째 추천 감사합니다. 코너 반구미와 카카오, 사스케 고란노 스폰사노 대표대
last week,
오쿠리시마스.
Jordan, much to the surprise as many, but a win is a win, no matter how you get it. They have been definitely a lot better if we take out day one. Everything from day one, they've been actually in the middle of the pack. In fact, for day 2 alone, if we had just looked at day 2, Jordan, they were 8th. So they're in the top 8 in terms of their play style and the way that they're playing, really showing that they can actually mix it here with these big boys, the SCA region, the best teams from APAC, showing that they're not just here to make up the numbers, really.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, right? We sort of had our reservations and our questions after day 1 as to how Carnage and how VTR would go on day 2. And I have to say, I think both teams have kind of turned it around pretty substantially. 26 points on day 2 for Carnage, 24 for VTR. So much better performances on day 2 than on day 1. We see a circle shift that may be favorable actually for the Australian teams. It's incidental that we're talking about Carnage because they're going to have a pretty decent rotate in from the south. There's no one in front of them. You see Astra in the center of the circle, Fury relatively close to the center of the circle as well. And a lot of teams having to come down now from the northern side of the map. They're going to run into each other as well because rotating through that region of the map does tend to lead you into some corridors. And we might actually see something pretty fantastic out of game 1 here on Miramar.
9.5 minutes has now elapsed. A reminder as well for everyone watching that on Twitch you can have a look at the map, PCS_map at all times if you want to just keep an eye on that. Currently just to the east of El Pozo, as we're watching Cerberus rotating into El Pozo, in fact, but a lot of the teams are already quite situated for this sort of circle, Jordan. I don't think we're going to see too many rotations outside of the circle. In fact, I don't think we're going to see too much here for Phase 2. Phase 3 onwards, when things may just pick up quite a bit. Golden Cat, Tanoi, of course, picked that early kill onto Cerberus. They've been a team that has pretty much picked up where they left off for Charity Showdown, around that top 5. Not really threatening for first place, Jordan, but still around top 5, and a really solid team as a whole.
Well, Cat definitely having started the day off the way they would have wanted to, already a point on the board and putting a bit of pressure into DIC now as well. I'm not going to go so far as to say that I think they can take first here, because I think it is a bit of a ludicrous assumption that anyone would overtake Q Confirm right now. Maybe in 3 games' time, if Q Confirm have gotten 0 points on the board today, then I'll start singing a different song. But for Golden Cat, I think the aim of the game right now is to take second place and to go into day 4 at least within 30 points of Q Confirm. At least then maybe we can make an argument that someone might be able to overtake Q Confirm. So still something to play for Golden Cat, and certainly for Cerberus as well.
Not just them, but of course, I think if you're every single team in this lobby should still be aiming at least a minimum for second. Like, I don't know how much you could really say if you say the bottom 3 who are still in the 30s, Carnage, Victim Rise, Eagle, Sentinel, Shooter, whether or not they can achieve that 50-point gap to Cerberus. But the minds of the players and the teams, Jordan, should always be, we've got to get what we can potentially get. What's the best result? And obviously, first place out of reach for many. We saw that with the champions predictions earlier. A lot are already on 0%, but there's still a lot of second place, third place, top 5 should still be the target. Pretty much everyone in this lobby. Turtle, nice spray, lands a lot onto Alonix. Yanku 2 off is able to land a couple back, just forcing back inside the building. And well, it's taken about 12 minutes, but we've kind of got our first few shots rigging out around Miramar. 35 seconds until phase 3s. The Vine and MSC Terraton close by.
Well, these are the teams up to the northern side of the map, which is quite congested, and I was expecting to see a few early engagements for those teams rotating down south. And it's not too big of a surprise for Divine and MSC to be running into each other. They're looking to take control of this compound, both teams, and to be honest, it might not actually be a bad compound to be in, but it's not going to be too nice if you're losing players here and there, and Yoshi Minburi will continue to struggle for MSC. We've lost a player early on in the piece. Divine, they're certainly within the mix, so seeing some early points on the board for them is not a bad shout at all here in...
Hello, Astra. Jordan? That's a feed if I've ever seen one. Fury as well. This is an Oceanic Circle coming from down under.
For sure, for sure. And it's exactly, again, what I sort of said and alluded to when we saw that first circle. All 3 of the Oceanic teams were able to get into a center position, were able to get into a solid position before anyone else. And they're not having that many teams rotate into them either. Maybe the exception being Fury with Victim Rise and Gearbox here, who, to be fair, are probably going to finish each other off, or at least lower the numbers a little bit before Fury has to get involved into this engagement. They may need to be a little bit aware of Carnage, but certainly a lot going on toward the northern side, towards the western side of the map, not quite as much towards the southeast. So I think for Fury, for Astra, this is the potential chance for them to get back into the winner's circle.
MSC Terraton, who haven't really had the impact from their star player. I, at least for me, have felt Yanku and Rossided have kind of stepped up in Yoshi Minburi's place this tournament so far. Gearbox on the move with J-End as they're close by to Victim Rise, 2 of the teams inside of the bottom 4 looking to escape it. They've lost Y8 already, though, has Gearbox to Victim Rise's Chibarit, who are off the bottom of the standings only momentarily for now, here at the back end of Fury's compound. They're going to push in, but you mentioned before that Fury probably don't have to get into the fights for a while, and you're probably right. Victim Rise are going to skirmish with Gearbox, but then whoever wins this, which is at this current moment shaping up to be Victim Rise, will then have to push into the compound of Fury.
Yeah, nice shots from Chibirit as he'll get rid of Chin. An extra point on the board there for Victim Rise. Up into 14th place, incidentally enough, so they're making some moves on the standings early on in the piece.